Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout as we look ahead to the Game Week 34 deadline. It's a blank game week, so we only have 8 fixtures this time around due to FA Cup commitments there, but plenty of team news to come. My name is Joe, and as ever, I'm joined by Fantasy Football Scouts editor Neale. Neale, welcome. How are you?
Hello, Joe. Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, as you say there, blank game week, and it's a bit of a mishmash of team news because we've got some press conferences that are game week 34 presses, some that are FA Cup press conferences, which in the case of Nottingham Forest, and then we haven't heard from Thomas Frank at all, of course, because he won't do his press conference until next Wednesday. But we've got the bulk of it anyway.
Okay, right, Joe. Before we move on, just a reminder, do press that like button, does help us out. And do remember to subscribe, keep up to date with our latest videos and podcasts. Welcome to those early birds joining us in the live chat, Matthew and Rodrev. Welcome there. Matthew is joining us from North Carolina. Ooh. I'm not sure where Rodrev's joining us from. Somewhere nice, I hope. Okay, let's move on. Chelsea and Everton. That's the first game. So, yeah, a lot of people are free hitting. Chelsea are of interest. Normally, this would be a tough game, but there's some injury news with Everton, which we'll come to in a sec. But let's go with Chelsea first. But, yes, this Everton injury news might make Chelsea's attackers a bit more desirable. What's the latest from Chelsea, though?
Yeah, Chelsea have got their own defensive injury, fresh from game week 33. Malo Gusto has got a minor muscle problem and he's going to be out of the Everton game, but he will return thereafter, they expect. Mark Diu is still out, Anselmino is still out, Fofana, Kariman, Mudryk, they're all still out. And that's pretty much it, yeah.
Okay, so with Gusto out, that just heightens the chances of Cucurella playing.
Well, Cucurella would have played regardless because I mean, he provides the requisite inversions and attacking
Okay.
forays from left back. Right back, I suppose, is a bit more of an issue. I think Maresca sees James often as a central midfielder now, and with it being Everton, I wouldn't be surprised if he plays like a Chalobah at right back with that extra height to combat Everton's aerial strength. But we shall see.
Okay, and as for Everton, what's the big news there?
Yeah, this could heighten a bit of interest in Cole Palmer and Nicholas Jackson. James Tarkowski has been part of that pretty solid back line under first Dyche and then Moyes. His season is over actually. He's had surgery on a hamstring injury. He sustained that last weekend, and that's the end of his campaign. Injury-wise, it's just the same otherwise. Mangala, Lindstrom and Calvert-Lewin are out. Calvert-Lewin's very nearly back in training, so we could see him before the season's end. They are also without one of their striking options, so that's Armando Broja. He's on loan from Chelsea, so he can't feature against his parent club. As for who comes in for Tarkowski, we saw Michael Keane make a reappearance in Game Week 33. I think he's about 3.8 million now in FPL. But he had a bit of a torrid when he came on, and Man City scored twice in his presence. And Moyes was actually asked, in fact, Moyes was asked after the game, and he seemed a bit miffed about Keane's performance. He said it shouldn't have disrupted us like the way it did, Tarkowski's injury.
Yeah.
And he was asked this afternoon about whether he would instead put Jake O'Brien there, who has been playing as a right back, sort of hybrid right back. And then bring in someone like Patterson or Ashley Young, at right back, Coleman at right back. So he's got options, and so it's not a guarantee that Keane starts.
Okay, right, yeah. I mean, as soon as you said Ashley Young as well, Keane, just whatever scenario, it does sound like there could be penalties in this game. So
yeah, potentially.
Maybe. I'm personally probably going to avoid Chelsea. I've avoided Palmer this
Me
long.
too.
And I just think there might be better options there. Okay, let's move on to Brighton against West Ham. The Potter derby, but what shape are Brighton in as they prepare to host their former boss's team?
Yeah, not great shape. Although they do get a couple of players back this week. So Van Hecker is the big absentee. He is out with a head injury, so it's the concussion protocol again. He should be back in game week 35, but he's going to be absent for this one. Joao Pedro's out too, of course. He begins a 3-match ban following his dismissal last weekend. And then Ruta, Webster, Milner, and Kadioglu, they're all still out as well. But there is some good news, especially at right back, because Veltman and Lamptey are training again. and our options, according to Hertzler. We've also seen, I think, Ego on the training pitch this week,
Hmm.
so he shouldn't be too far away. He's been out a bit longer, so
Yeah.
might be a little bit further behind. And Matoma, who was only ready to be a substitute last weekend, he is now fully fit
Okay.
and ready to start.
Rightio. I had to do guess the team lineup earlier today for the Jump the Wave predictions, and it was tricky this week because
Mm,
I don't know which of Lamptey or Veltman may start. They both,
yeah,
either of them could, neither of them could. And they
yeah,
also have a lot of flexibility in their midfielders can move in. Hinshelwood can play in a variety of positions. It's quite tricky. All I know is that I think it's going to be Welbeck, Matoma, and Minter. I don't know who's going to be
yeah.
behind them. It could be someone like Riley or Reefer. I don't know. It's a really tough one to call. But good luck with that. West Ham, meanwhile, what shape are they in?
Yeah, they speaking of the Potter derby, it's also the Evan Ferguson derby, and he can't feature, of course, because he's on loan from Brighton to West Ham, so he's ineligible. They should get Aaron Wan-Bissaka back, although we heard that last weekend, didn't we, from Potter, that he should be fit for game week 33, and then he cost a lot of people on a bench boost. But he does say he should be back from a toe injury for this one. Edson Alvarez is likely to miss out, however, he's got a back injury, and they are still without Somerville and Antonio too.
Okay, rightio. It's worth pointing out that although Welbeck's not currently in my free hit squad, he has scored. I think he's scored the most goals. West Ham are his favourite team to score against. They're the team that he scored the most goals against that are in the Premier League. And it could be a good game for Jared Bowen as well if Van Hecker's out. So just a little
Yeah.
bit of advice for those two there. Newcastle against Ipswich, another good matchup there. Could be lots of goals here. It certainly was last time they met. Eddie Howe is back, so we can actually hear from him. So what's
Yeah.
he had to say?
Well, about 90% of the press conference was about his own health, which you'd understand. A lot of questions from reporters about his spell in hospital with pneumonia. There was time for an injury update, though, which was helpful to an extent, because the news on Fabian Schär there's still a little bit of uncertainty. He came off last weekend with a hamstring discomfort, I think they call it. It wasn't a full-blown strain, but it was a precautionary substitution in the last stages of that Villa game. And Eddie Howe said this morning, we hope he will be okay. And that was it. We didn't get any more on that.
Okay.
A little bit more on Sven Botman, who is nearly back. He's been out for 2 months. He's trained this week. And Howe did say it's very early stages for him. So even if he's back in the squad, he will be on the bench. I'm confident of, unless, of course,
Okay.
Schär is out. And then he might rush him back. But if Schär is available, then he'll be on the bench, I'm sure. Hall and Lascelles are out as well, and nothing on Gordon versus Barnes or
No.
Barnes versus Murphy really. There was a few questions about the unchanged 11. So we've had the same team for 7 matches in a row in League and Cup. And Jason Tyndall said last weekend after that Villa defeat that it was probably one game too far. It was the third game in a 3-game week. And in hindsight, you might have made changes. But both him and Howe have emphasised that it was physicality and fitness against Villa. It wasn't anything to do with performance levels or form. So with a week's breather, I do wonder whether he will stick with Barnes and Murphy out wide, and then Gordon has to
Okay.
work his way back in the team, because it would be very, very harsh on Barnes and Murphy if they got benched for Gordon after being excellent for
Yeah.
6 or 7 weeks, winning a cup, and then Gordon comes back in after one defeat in which everyone was poor. It wasn't just the two
Yeah.
wide men. So
Okay. So
I'd be surprised if Gordon comes
yes,
back in.
I would as well. Judging by that team, I think any team would want to keep a winning formula on the whole winning. If of the two though, you would imagine if Gordon did come in, it would weirdly be for Barnes, not Murphy, because Murphy has a sort of different role there, and Gordon's more suited to the left.
Yeah, I mean, Gordon and Barnes are more natural on the left, and they both prefer to play there. Interestingly, though, Gordon has been coming on for Murphy in the last 2, possibly 3 games.
Yeah.
He has replaced Murphy, and Barnes has gone over to the right at that point. But from the start, I would still think Murphy has that right wing slot.
Yeah. Okay. I was talking to Tom Freeman, your colleague, earlier this week, and he was telling me of an interesting matchup. Murphy on the right, and I guess Trippier as well, that would be, against Ipswich we'll come to now,
Hmm.
because they are without a certain player in their
Yeah,
back line, and I think they might have a problem with their backup as well. But you'll
yeah,
illuminate me there. But anyway, looks a good
yeah.
matchup for
Two left
Murphy.
backs down. Yeah, yeah. Two left backs down. Whether this is a good thing or bad thing, I'm not sure because Leif Davis, you kind of want him playing because he's so gung ho and leaves a
Yeah.
lot of space behind him. But anyway, he's banned. He's was sent off last weekend for a serious foul play, so that's a 3-match suspension for him. And then his backup, Connor Townsend, who's a bit more sort of defensively sound, he's out as well with a hamstring injury. So it could be, as we saw against Arsenal, Jacob Greaves playing as a sort of left back, left wing back
Okay.
hybrid. He did all right actually against Arsenal, didn't do too badly, though he did get skinned by Saka for that second goal. So that's the hope. I think that Newcastle would target that flank against Greaves and try and
Okay.
Murphy and Trippier do the damage against him. Elsewhere, so Phillips and Broadhead are still out, as are Muric, Burns, Ogbeni, Schmodix, and Philogene. Hutchinson wasn't mentioned by McKenna, and he is a bit slippery with his team news, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's actually fit and back in the squad for this one.
Okay.
Liam Delapi's continuing to play through a rib problem. He's been on the bench in the last two. McKenna says a late decision on him. I think he said in the aftermath of that Arsenal game that he wasn't ready for anything other than cameos at the moment. So
Okay.
it might be George Hurst leading the line again this weekend.
Okay, let's move on to Southampton against Fulham. We'll go with Southampton first, but it's more interested in Fulham, so we'll
Yeah,
just quickly do Southampton.
yeah, no fresh concerns for the Saints. Russ said he has a fully fit squad, but whether it includes recent absentees like Albert Grombeck and Charlie Taylor, we're not sure. But I doubt few will care.
Okay, and as for Fulham, we have a slight clarity on who might start up top.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be absolutely amazed if it's not Raul Jimenez because Carlos Vinicius has been peripheral to say the least. It has been a bit of a job share between Jimenez and Rodrigo Muniz recently, but the latter of those two is now out. He was out again in game week 33, actually, but he's still sidelined. And Silva said he was not even sure he's going to be back after this one. Um, he did say in the press conference, actually, probably we're almost sure that Rodrigo is out. So it's just a tiny,
Oh
tiny
no!
sliver of doubt.
Yeah.
But I do think he is sidelined. Smith Rowe might not be, though. He could be back. He's been back in training this week. He missed out against Chelsea as well. Reece Nelson is still out for the rest of the season. And then, yeah, Harry Wilson he's fine. I mean, he's been back in the squad, I think, the last 1 or 2 game weeks. He came on as a substitute last weekend. I know a lot of people are looking at Sessegnon. I am too. Out of position defender who's been racking up the chances lately. I do think Sessegnon starts this one. He's actually been really, really good. He was arguably the man of the match last week against Chelsea, and it was only after he was taken off
Yeah.
that Chelsea scored twice. So
Ah.
I do think he'll start. Obviously, I think Wilson or Adama come on and eat into his minutes. But that actually worked out well for him last weekend because he
Yeah.
banked the clean sheet and then Chelsea scored. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking of taking their gamble on Sessegnon.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That is interesting as well. I think the comments from Marco Silva will seem to be alluding to Wilson getting minutes, but not
Yeah,
starting.
he said he could start up or come off the bench, but he also said Wilson's been out a long time and Sessegnon's playing very well at the moment. So
Yeah.
I think he's leaning towards another substitute
Okay.
appearance.
Well, that sounds good advice there. Okay, let's move on to Wolves against Leicester. There are lots of talk, speculation in the papers at the moment about Cunha going off. I don't know if the Wolves manager mentions that at all. I think Manchester United are favourites to sign Cunha next season. But yeah, what? I don't know if he said anything about that or if he said anything about anything else.
Yeah, I can't tell you about Cunha because I've yet to see this one all the way through. It hasn't actually been on Sky yet or on YouTube. Hopefully, it will land by the end of the day, and I can tell you more about Cunha on the site. He did tell us about the injuries, though, so it's good news generally. Jose Sarr's okay after his back niggle last weekend, so he pulled out of the warm up lineup. Sorry, in the warm up. Bellegarde's trained as well, so is Wang, so is Pedro Lima. So that's 4 players who could be back for this one. Sam Johnson, who's obviously peripheral now anyway, he's missed the last 2 with a small problem. And given that he wasn't mentioned in this roundup, I'm assuming he's still out as well. And it's just the longer term ones like Mosquera, Chiwumi, and Gonzalez.
Okay, rightio. Leicester, what's the latest from them?
Yeah, we heard from Van Nistelrooy yesterday, and the headline news from that press conference was obviously Vardy's decision to leave the club at the end of the season. Team news wise, I don't think we got any fresh updates in the broadcast section. However, the Leicester Mercury did report some new quotes, possibly in the embargoed section. And their danger man, actually, this is good for Wolves defenders. They're sort of the sole bright spark in recent weeks. Steffi Mavididi, he's probably out for the season with a muscle problem. He's definitely going to miss this one.
Okay.
And Van Nistelrooy said it's doubtful whether he'll feature again.
Okay.
McAteer, who missed out last weekend, he could return. He has trained and could come back in a contention. And the only other player who's out that we know of is Abdul Fattah.
Okay, rightio. Let's move on to Bournemouth against Manchester United. Latest from Bournemouth?
One, I suppose it's not really even a fresh concern because it's a player who's been playing through a niggle for a while. Lewis Cook has got ankle tendonitis, I think it is. So he's been sort of battling through the pain barrier. But Iraola said this afternoon that they'd have to assess him on an ongoing basis. But that's it. I mean, the three who were out are still out. Sinisterra's not ready to return, and then the longer term ones are Christie and Enes Unal.
Okay, right, yeah. And as for Manchester United, do you remind me, this game, where does it fall in Manchester United's quite busy schedule? Have they got a European clash coming up soon?
They have, yeah, next Thursday, or this Thursday, I should say, like, the following on from Gameweek 34.
Okay.
You would think that Gameweek 35 would be certainly ripe for rotation with both the United and Spurs, because that falls right in the middle of the two legs. Whether you may go a bit stronger for this one, it's the final warm-up game. He wants to get a bit of rhythm into players. I mean, he rested Bruno for the last one, so might want to get him a start before Thursday. Who knows? But he'll definitely be without Darlow.
Okay.
I can tell you that, because he's joined the injury list after picking up a calf injury, and he might be out for the rest of the season. Aidan Heaven's still out as well. Xerxes and Martinez are longer term ones, and Collier, we think, still sidelined as well. There is a bit of good news. Delict and Ahmad Diallo, they're closing in on comebacks. Ruben Amorim said this afternoon that they're both near, but he didn't say exactly how near, or whether they're in training or not, but they're almost back.
Okay, right. So Liverpool take on Tottenham. Liverpool can clinch the first Premier League title in front of their fans for a long time. They, of course, last time they won it. Yeah, the last time they won it, it was behind closed doors. A bunch of cardboard cutouts got to cheer. But what shape are Liverpool in for this? And also, what was said about Alexander-Arnold and Bradley? Because I know lots of people on free hits, or indeed using transfers, will be interested in Alexander-Arnold.
Yeah, this is where you need an FPL fan in the press conference room, don't you? Because unfortunately, he wasn't asked, not directly about Trent, but there was some questions about Bradley. I'll deal with the injuries first. I think there's just one that we know of. Joe Gomez, he's still out, and he could be back before the end of the season. The last 1 or 2 games, potentially for him, but it's still about 3 or 4 weeks away. As for Bradley versus Trent, the questions were actually about Bradley rather than his positional rival. And firstly, it was whether he's ready for 90 minutes. And Slot said that depends. He's getting closer to 90 minutes because he has started the last 2 and lasted around about 70 minutes. She's getting closer and closer. He was then asked whether it was beneficial for him to play successive matches and keep, a run in the team. And Slot, said yes, that was important. But he did highlight the fact that they've got another world-class fullback at the club, and that is Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's fit again.
Okay.
And he said it would be difficult for Bradley to keep starting so long as Alexander-Arnold is fit. So not a huge amount of clues there, and I might add sort of ambiguity might be enough to put people off Trent. I think he'll probably start.
Trent. Yeah.
Sorry?
That puts me on Trent, if anything.
I think Trent's. I might have him in my current predicted lineup, and I'll finalise that later in the day. Trent, because Bradley was a little bit off it last weekend, and then obviously Trent comes on and scores, and he's had an extra week of training. He definitely wasn't ready for anything but substitute duty last weekend. Slot told us that, but he has had an extra week. It's probably enough to put me off Gams on him unless I hear anything more during the rest of the day. But it's obviously high upside with Trent because Spurs are like United have one eye on Europe.
Yeah, and they're leaky as well.
And they're leaky, yeah.
But I don't know. That says to me that Trent's first choice and he's fit, and and he'll start, and Bradley will come on for him.
Yeah, I mean, it did seem to be sort of, yeah, issuing caveats that about Bradley's minutes, because
Yeah,
the questions were about Bradley, and he
yeah,
was reminding people like Alexander Arnold was still there and is still a Liverpool player as things stand.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
Um, but he did say he did end up that quote by saying, "Let's see if Bradley's able to play if he can make 90 minutes also." So who knows?
Oh no, maybe I'll just swerve, but that's an annoying
Trent,
swerve.
isn't it? Yeah, I know,
Um,
I know.
I am completely swerving Spurs though, so I don't care
Yeah,
whether about that. But anyway, there are some people out there that may do. What's the latest from Spurs?
I did a piece based on Ragabolly's live FPL site, which was how many players from each club, each top 100k manager owns an FPL, and Spurs were less represented than Southampton.
Wow.
People own more Southampton players on
Yeah.
average than they do Spurs players. So that is how much of an afterthought
Wow.
they are. And will continue to be this weekend if you're in a free hit. Otherwise, injury wise, they're pretty good shape. Dragison's obviously out for the season. Son is the only other one who's out. He's actually back in training or back on the grass anyway, and should be in contention come game week 35. But for this one, Ange says that it's too soon. He has said that recently about other players, and then they've appeared on the bench.
Okay.
Kulusevski was one.
Yeah.
So there is a chance that he'll be a substitute, but I don't think it'll be anything more than that.
Okay. And final game, slightly unusual one. Forest
Mm.
against Brentford's. Ordinarily, this would have been postponed because of Forest's involvement in the FA Cup, but they can squeeze this in now. So they
Yeah.
can. And so Brentford's. What's the, now? I've seen some Brentford's stuff from Fantasy Football Scout, but I haven't seen anything from Forest. So we'll go.
Yeah.
Is there anything from Forest at all?
There is not of much use because Nuno was at his usual tricks today. He was facing the media ahead of the FA Cup semi-finals on
Okay.
Sunday, and then they will play Brentford the following Thursday. So he was asked about injuries, and he said he has a lot of concerns. I cannot tell you about any of them.
Brilliant.
And then he said it's the same. We are assessing players day by day. There's one for your bingo card, assessing. And then he was grilled a bit further on Ola Aina, who's the only one who was flagged actually
Okay.
of the Forest squad. And he said he is one of the cases. It's day to day with him. Yes, he could be back for Sunday, but let's see. And then the only other player he name checked was Eric Moreira, who's
Okay.
he's not a first teamer. So a little bit of ambiguity as usual from Nuno.
I understand that Chris Wood's partner gave birth this week as well. Is my understanding. So there could be some baby celebrations, I guess,
It could be,
if he's
yeah.
yours. And that was some days ago, so it's not like it's like yesterday. So he'll definitely.
Yeah, and you've got the FA Cup semi-final this weekend, so
Yeah.
he won't be benched. But if he was going to be
Yeah.
benched, it
Oh,
would
it'd
be
have
this
to be
weekend.
like triplets or something to miss
He
that.
would- yeah,
And him actually giving birth as well somehow. Brentford, what's the latest there?
yeah. Well, this is the one team that we don't have any fresh information from because they aren't in FA Cup action this weekend, and they aren't playing their game week 34 match till next Thursday. So Thomas Frank won't face the media till well after the FPL deadline. What we know, Josh Da Silva and Carvalho are out, long-term ones. Igor Thiago and Aaron Hickey, Thomas Frank previously described them, I think about a week ago, as getting closer. But I think it's still questionable whether they're going to be involved because I've seen the lineup for the B team today, for example. Rico Henry's in there and Nunes is in there and a few other first teamers, but they aren't. So they're not even getting the minutes with the under 21s yet. So I think they're probably still going to be out as well. And then the only new concern from game week 33 was, again, a peripheral squad member, Konak, and he had a clash of heads with Van Hecker. He was the one who inflicted that concussion on Van Hecker. But he's fine. He's actually featuring for the B team today. So that's as much as we know from Brentford.
Okay, right, yeah. I'll try and round up what we got so far then. So available, Jose Sarr, those looking to get him in goal is back. Bellegarde and Huang, they are available, should be anyway. Questionable, but could be available. Veltman and Lamptey for Brighton, they could be back. One of them certainly, or maybe not. Fabian Schär is a slight injured out. Eddie Howe hopes he's back. Delap, fitness concerns could keep him out, but he might play. Cook for Bournemouth as well, might miss out. Wan-Bissaka, well, he missed out last time out. Could do again, but should be okay. Mavididi looks like he's out for the season. I put him as a major doubt because he wasn't like 100% or he's definitely out, but he's pretty much definitely out. and it could be for the season with a muscle problem. Out. Van Heck concussion protocol is going to keep him out, which is good news for Bowen. Davis. Leif Davis is suspended for 3 matches. Alvarez is out with a back problem for West Ham. Muniz is out with a knock for Fulham. And so that propels Jimenez into people's thoughts. Dallow's out with a calf problem for Manchester United. Son's foot is going to keep him out. Gusto's got a knock, won't feature. Tarkowski, season over, just had surgery on a hamstring issue. And Broja, he's ineligible for Everton. I think we've got most there. Okay, excellent. Well, good luck with the game week. Good luck everyone watching and listening. Good luck those free hitting. Good luck those not free hitting. Good luck to everyone, and especially me, because I need it, because I haven't had much in FPL lately. Take care. See you soon.
Thanks, folks. Bye bye.